Since you can't even do household chores properly, you might as well just keep working forever. Haha.
I couldn't help but get angry at those words. After all, it was Tony who had been against me working in the first place. I couldn't believe his nerve after getting jealous when I became a supervisor and then annoying me when my salary increased. And now he's telling me to just keep working. How dare you?
What's up? Got a complaint? If you have a complaint, then just do whatever you please.
Realizing I was irritated, Tony retorted with a frown. Fine, I'll do as I please. In a tit-for-tat response, I said that and then went to bed in a sulk. I was furious with Tony, but work wasn't going to wait for me. The next day, I went to work and immediately requested a meeting with the department head. As I had declared to Tony, I'll do as I please, I decided to take on a project that had been proposed to me earlier. My name is Cindy Gale, and I'm 30 years old. About 3 years ago, I married Tony, who is the same age as me. We don't have kids yet, so we are both working hard as dual-income couple. In the past, many people thought that once a woman got married, she should stay at home, but those days are gone. Although we work at different companies, we both are employed full-time and help each other with household chores. Generally, Tony handles the laundry and cleaning, while I mainly take care of the meals, trying to serve beautiful dishes to Tony since the beginning of our marriage. At work, too, I strive to perform, and I was recently promoted to a position as a supervisor. With this promotion, both the quantity and quality of my work have increased. However, Tony, who is still a regular employee at his company, failed to understand my situation.
Didn't we have this for dinner yesterday? Aren't you being a bit ignorant with dinner lately? Please do it properly.
One evening at dinner, Tony said this. Tony hasn't had a promotion yet, and he's still just a regular employee. Perhaps frustrated that his wife, me, received a promotion before him, he didn't celebrate my promotion. Since I became a supervisor, he started nagging every day. Of course, I have less free time than before, but I still manage the household chores we've divided up just as I used to. I understand that his nagging stems from jealousy, which is why I feel I must treat carefully. Sorry, I do the prep in the morning, but I can't help but be late preparing dinner when I get back. So I've been making simple dishes lately.
Simple dishes? So you're saying it's okay to eat the same thing every day?
That's not what I'm saying.
Don't make excuses. After all, you were the one who said you'd handle the meals when we got married, right? The women at my company managed to take care of household chores even while raising children. You always say that.
I couldn't say anything back. Of course, there are such people at Tony's company, but it's pointless to compare us to other families. Moreover, the woman Tony always mentions is, I believe, a part-time worker. I don't look down on people with part-time jobs, but being compared in that way feels somewhat off. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm being generous, so I'll forgive you.
When I apologized, Tony started eating again. I wish he would just eat quietly, but there's nothing I can do about it. When I talked about Tony with a friend, she suggested I think of it as practice for when raising a kid. Indeed, watching Tony sometimes makes me feel like I'm dealing with a child. Complimenting him is my only option. Oh, right. You did the laundry, didn't you? Thank you.
Huh? Yeah. It's obvious, isn't it? Without me, the house wouldn't function at all.
I swallowed what I wanted to say and praised Tony, who seemed pleased. Indeed, Tony does the household chores as agreed. However, even when doing the laundry, he doesn't look at the labels or use a mesh bag. He just throws everything in, presses one button to wash and dry. Sometimes Tony complains about clothes shrinking or getting pilled. If that counts as properly doing the chores, I wonder how well I'm really doing. But I never expressed dissatisfaction with Tony. Once when I did express dissatisfaction, it led to a huge argument.
Then you should quit your job and take care of everything. That's why I said so when we got married. I shouldn't have listened to what you said, Cindy.
Tony yelled at me, hurled insults, and then we didn't speak for about 2 weeks. During that time, he didn't do his share of the work, and I had to handle everything. It's better for me to endure some things than to suffer so much emotionally and physically. Indeed, Tony was originally not supportive of my job.
When a married woman goes out to work, it never ends well. That's what my sister said. That's why I want you to stay at home.
I don't know what Tony's sister meant by that, but if that's what Tony wants, I was prepared to do so. But it turned out that we couldn't live on Tony's salary alone. It wasn't a situation where we could live on ideals alone. So I insisted on continuing to work desperately. My company is a major firm with good pay. If both of us worked, we might have a bit more breathing room. Tony agreed reluctantly, and that's how our current situation came about. Despite being a bit sloppy, Tony does share the household chores. That much is true and helps me a lot. As Tony's birthday approached, I had never given him a lavish celebration since we got married. For his birthday, I had always celebrated with my home-cooked meals. But this year, with my increased salary as a supervisor, I decided to celebrate his birthday with a hotel dinner. When I bought the gift and the day arrived, Tony's eyes widened in surprise as he relished the course meal.
This is the first time I've had such delicious food. But are we okay with money?
It's a special occasion. It's your birthday. I got a raise since I became a supervisor, and we'll cut back a little from now on. So, no more complaints about the simple dishes I make, okay? We joked like that and ended the day. But I did notice Tony's smirk that day. A few days later, he started to ask persistently.
Hey, you said your salary went up, right? How much did it increase by? You're a supervisor now, so it must have been a significant raise, right?
Before his birthday, supervisor seemed like a forbidden word. We never mentioned it, but as soon as he heard about the salary increase, his attitude changed rapidly.
Being a supervisor is impressive. It's all because of Cindy's hard work.
He started to praise me. Initially, I couldn't keep up with his sudden change and just smiled awkwardly, but he kept pestering me about the salary. I continued to completely ignore his inquiries. But when I kept ignoring him, he started to sulk.
What? Getting cocky because you're just a supervisor? You think you're better than me because I'm just a regular employee at a smaller company, don't you?
It was really annoying. I splurged because it was your birthday. I'm not rich, so please stop talking about money. After scolding him like that, he finally calmed down a bit, but it was clear that Tony was fixated on my money. I regretted becoming a supervisor and even celebrating his birthday. I had some regrets, but it wasn't all bad. After becoming a supervisor, I was entrusted with a big project. Although it meant even more overtime, Tony was supportive.
Cindy, you're a supervisor and you're busy. I'll do what I can.
And he started preparing dinner, even if it was just supermarket-ready meals. Maybe that birthday had its meaning after all, as it made him more cooperative. And when that busy period finally settled down, Tony said with excitement in his eyes.
So, you were busy, right? You must be getting a special bonus, right?
I was shocked at his words. No, there's no bonus. Why would there be a bonus? I was too tired to argue. Then Tony lost his temper.
Huh? Working overtime for months and no bonus? What was the point of me helping out? What a lousy company you work for.
I had no energy to counter that. The point of him helping out? Is there supposed to be a point to a couple helping each other out? I couldn't believe he would insult someone else's company. I couldn't hold back at that moment. Huh? I was grateful that you were helping out, but is that how you really see this? That's disappointing. We exchanged words again, and eventually it escalated into an argument. Enough, let's stop. I'm tired and going to bed. I forcefully ended the conversation like that. For a while after, I couldn't even stand to look at Tony's face. Then I had to go on a business trip. We hadn't spoken since the argument, but I had to inform him since I would be leaving the house. I have a business trip coming up. I'll be gone for 3 days. Please take care of the house while I'm gone. I said this, but Tony, still angry, didn't respond. Without reconciling, I left for the trip. Those 3 days were busy with work, but in between work, I wondered how Tony was doing. Was he eating properly? I was worried, but my pride prevented me from reaching out. The time apart allowed me to cool down. I decided to apologize when I got home. After finishing the 3 days of work, I bought some tasty souvenirs and started my journey back home. I'm home. However, as soon as I entered the entrance hall, I sensed something was off. There were several unfamiliar shoes in the shoe cabinet. Moreover, there was a delicious smell coming from the kitchen. It was definitely the smell of homemade food, and I knew Tony couldn't cook. I hurried into the living room. Ah, Cindy, welcome back. Alyssa, what are you doing here? Standing in the kitchen, visible from the living room, was Tony's sister, Alyssa. and Katie, Tony's niece, was lounging on the sofa. If it were just a visit, that would be one thing, but it was clear that more belongings had been brought into our home. This sofa, for instance, hadn't been here before I went on my business trip. I stood at the entrance to the living room, stunned, unable to comprehend what was happening. "We're just about ready for dinner," Alyssa said nonchalantly. Despite my shock, I walked over to Tony, who was sitting at the dining table, and spoke to him. "Tony, what's going on?"
What do you mean? I decided to live with my sister Alyssa and her daughter Katie. The move is already finished.
Tony said this as if it were the most natural thing.
"That's right. So go on. Please make yourself at home."
Alyssa also said this with a smile, but I was far from able to smile at this situation. Bringing in Alyssa and Katie's belongings and deciding to live together with them without consulting me was not something to be decided all on his own. Wait a minute, you can't just decide this on your own.
What's the problem? You're always too busy with overtime to do any housework, so it's better if we live together and have my sister take care of the chores.
Tony retorted when I tried to argue. Alyssa had Katie when she was 20 and divorced a few years later. Since then, she had been raising Katie alone, and Katie was now 18. I knew about this, and I knew that Tony admired his significantly older sister Alyssa. However, I had never imagined it would lead to us living together.
"Cindy, please understand."
Alyssa seemed to have no reservations, and Katie said in a small voice,
"Please understand."
My head hurt, but I couldn't just silently accept the situation. "I'm sorry, but I can't live together with you all like this." I stated this clearly. However, Tony just laughed at me as if he was mocking me.
Why? Since you can't even manage the housework properly, you might as well just keep working.
I was infuriated by his words. Originally, it was Tony who had opposed my working. Being envied for becoming a supervisor, then targeted for a salary increase, and now being told to just keep working, it was unbelievable. How dare you?
What, got a complaint? If you have a complaint, then just do whatever you please.
It seemed Tony sensed my irritation and retorted angrily. Fine, I'll do as I please. But I was the one who wanted to be angry. In a tit-for-tat response, I said that to Tony. After that, we stopped talking and I went to sleep. Alyssa and Katie, having apparently given up their own home, naturally slept in the beds they had brought in. The spare room that was supposed to be a children's room was taken over by the two of them, and I was more sad than angry. Yet work waited for no one. The next day, as soon as I got to the office, I immediately requested a meeting with the department head. I decided to take on a project that had been previously suggested.
That's great. I appreciate you taking it on.
This is a good opportunity, so I'll work hard for myself. After making a promise with the department head, I immersed myself in work. I found it more bearable to be at work than to be home because I couldn't forgive Tony. A few days later, this happened.
Hey, Cindy, how long are you going to sulk? Come back home already.
Tony contacted me with that message. Although I had been going home, it was only after everyone was asleep, and I would leave before anyone woke up. However, these past few days, I haven't gone home at all. That's because I had set up a new place to live. You tell me to come home, but I can't just come back immediately.
Can't come back immediately? What do you mean?
I'm in Cancun now. It's midnight here. Besides, your sister can take care of the household chores even if I don't come back, right?
Huh?
As I yawned while I said this, Tony seemed momentarily breathless. I had just finished work and was returning home, and talking to Tony was just exhausting. Finally understanding the situation, Tony suddenly shouted,
Huh? Cancun? You went on a trip without telling us?
It's not a trip. I've been living here for the past 3 days.
What are you talking about?
But the next words I spoke seemed to confuse Tony again. Had he already forgotten that he told me to do as I please? I could imagine a flustered Tony on the other end of the phone, and I said while laughing, What do you mean? You're the one who said do as you please, and I said I would. That's why I accepted the assignment to move to Cancun that had been proposed before. They even prepared a mansion for me here, and it's a really wonderful place.
But there's a limit, right? This involves both of our lives, and you decided this on your own.
Tony seemed quite upset. Surely if we had discussed it, he would have said that we should move here together. However, this assignment in Cancun was like a prize for the achievements I made at my previous job. I think it's Tony's fault for getting angry about not getting a special bonus and not listening to other things. Also, doesn't he feel any incongruity in saying that? He decided on his own to live with Alyssa and Katie, affecting both of our lives. That's quite a boomerang. Did you consult me when you decided for us to live together with Alyssa and Katie?
That's...
I'll be working here, and in 2 years I'll return to the US as a manager. Until then, live well with your sister and her daughter. I said this and hung up the phone. Tony must be feeling restless now. His own reckless actions and missteps have made it impossible for him to live overseas. A few days later, Tony contacted me again. I answered the phone wondering what it was this time, and he sounded cheerful.
Guess where I am right now?
I don't know, and I'm hanging up because I'm at work.
I'm right in front of your mansion. Haha.
I was shocked by his words. When I asked for details, he told me he had contacted the company and found out my address. If a husband claims it's necessary for procedures, the company had to provide it. And based on that address, he had come all the way here on his own. What about your job?
I took some time off to come here, and...
Yoo-hoo, I'm here too.
To my surprise, I heard Alyssa's voice on the phone. Why has she come too? I was at my wit's end.
So that's the situation. We're both waiting for you. Hurry back.
What about Katie?
Katie has a test, so she's not coming.
Alyssa said this nonchalantly. I was just astonished again. I see, but I won't be coming back today. I have a dinner meeting to go to. Even if they contact me, I'm not in the mood to host them, and it's not possible to accommodate such a sudden visit. I had no plans to return home today because I was attending a social gathering with another company.
What? Then what are we supposed to do?
Tony sounded panicked. But that wasn't my concern. Why don't you stay at a hotel? Anyway, that's the situation. I'm at work right now. Bye. I said this and hung up the phone. They might be making a fuss, but I don't have time to deal with it. They'll probably give up and look for a hotel. However, my assumption was too optimistic. During the social gathering, my phone rang. Excuse me. I excused myself from the table and answered the phone. When I saw an unfamiliar number, I was puzzled, but it turned out to be a call from the police. What? A burglar? Apparently there was an intruder at my house, looking for an open window. They found a pet door. I didn't have pets, so I hadn't noticed, but it seems the house built by my company had one. Of course, I hadn't even known about such a feature, so it wasn't locked. The intruder had tried to enter through it and got stuck, unable to move forward or back, and someone passing by had called the police. What a foolish burglar. Such a fool could be dangerous if encountered. I was truly relieved I wasn't home today. Then the moment came.
This person claims to be your sister. Do you know her?
I went pale at those words. Sister? Could her name possibly be... I don't have a sister. The only possibility is Tony's sister, Alyssa. As expected, the police read out her name. It was embarrassingly pathetic. It's shameful to think that a family member would try to forcibly enter through such a place.
Cindy, help! Come and get me!
I could hear Alyssa's commotion over the phone. What a nuisance. Although I could have gone to pick her up, I told the police. She is indeed my sister-in-law, but I can't forgive her for trying to enter my house without permission. Please investigate thoroughly what she intended to do in my house. The police responded to my complaint. Later, I heard that Alyssa was severely scolded. However, due to her inability to speak Spanish, there was a lot of confusion as they couldn't understand each other. Alyssa, overwhelmed by the uncertainty of her situation and the stress of not being able to communicate, reportedly broke down crying.
You shouldn't trouble your sister-in-law anymore.
The police officer told her this in broken English, to which Alyssa tearfully repeated,
Sí, sí.
Being arrested in Cancun might have been a good lesson for her. I decided to let Alyssa truly reflect and did not go to pick her up that day. The next day, thinking she must have reflected enough, I went to get her. Seeing my face, Alyssa broke down in tears of relief. By the way, where was Tony? Tony was probably relaxing in some hotel, a detail I hadn't bothered to think about. It was later revealed that while Alyssa was being detained, Tony was enjoying a meal alone. Believing Alyssa's claim that she would bring money from my house, Tony indulged in eating and drinking at a restaurant first. He didn't know Alyssa got stuck in the pet door and was arrested. Instead, he passed out drunk in the restaurant. The restaurant, troubled by his unresponsiveness, called the police, and when Tony woke up, he found himself in an unfamiliar police station. However, since my house and the restaurant were in different jurisdictions, Tony was taken to a different police station than Alyssa.
My wallet's gone. And my passport. Where's my phone?
Unfortunately, while he took a nap, his bag was stolen and he lost his wallet, passport, and phone. Like Alyssa, Tony, who doesn't speak Spanish, was arrested for not paying his bill and was unable to seek help, ending up under police care. This was only discovered after Alyssa was released.
Where's Tony?
I first learned of Tony's disappearance when Alyssa, always a nuisance, asked about him. I went to the restaurant where they were supposed to meet, learned the details from the owner, and found out that Tony had been taken away by the police.
Alyssa! Cindy!
When we visited the police station, Tony, looking pale, broke down crying and called our names. Frustrated by the déjà vu, I sighed. I explained the situation to the restaurant owner, paid for the damages, and apologized. Given the theft, the owner pitied Tony and decided not to pursue the matter of not paying. But the aftermath was challenging. At the police station, we went through the process for reporting a lost passport and contacted the consulate. I couldn't focus on work because of Alyssa and Tony's issues. When my irritation was about to explode, Tony said,
"Oh, I thought it was the end for me, but I'm glad it all worked out."
Yeah, thank goodness it's all good now. Let's go back to Cindy's house for now.
Their carefree words finally made me snap. Nothing about this is good for me. How can you say that after causing so much trouble for others?
Well, yeah, I admit that was bad, but...
Go back to your own home, and don't ever come here again. Both were silenced by my stern voice.
But...
I'll prepare the divorce papers this weekend.
Divorce papers?
Tony shouted, and Alyssa next to him looked shocked as she glanced back and forth between Tony and me. There's no benefit to me in staying married to you, Tony, and your sister moved in without letting me know. You can't even speak Spanish, yet you goof around in Cancun and get arrested, disrupting my work.
Ugh.
It seemed they finally understood the gravity of their actions as they hung their heads in shame. The sight of two adults scolded by a woman might have been amusing to passers-by who laughed as they watched. But my anger was far from subsiding. So I'm getting a divorce from you, Tony. No objections. Got it?
Ugh.
After bailing you two out of jail, I think I deserve a free and clear life as thanks. Right?
Yes.
Tony hesitated, but perhaps deeply reflecting on his actions, he replied in a low voice. Tony initially applied for a 4-day vacation, but due to the arrest and lost passport, he significantly overstayed his return date. Without a smartphone, he couldn't contact work to extend his leave. It seemed Tony had completely forgotten about his job amid his personal troubles. Moreover, he hadn't shared information about his current projects with anyone, intending to take all the credit for the big assignment. Missing a crucial meeting and not contacting the other party led to the termination of their business dealings. Despite the circumstances, Tony's unexcused absence and significant loss to the company resulted in his dismissal. Alyssa, furious about the situation, had a major argument with Tony. Essentially, she had quit her job and moved in as a housekeeper. But eventually, Tony divorced me and resigned from his job. With no breadwinner, the house where they lived became a battleground for daily arguments. I know all this because Katie, Alyssa's daughter, kept me informed.
They say you can't choose your parents, but if I could, I'd definitely choose you over Mom, Cindy.
Though the divorce meant I was no longer Katie's aunt, she still reached out occasionally to discuss job prospects or her love life. While we weren't close before, she now looked up to me like a sister, which made me happy. I continued to work in Cancun. I had planned to return to the US after 2 years, but with no need to go back, I decided to continue working here. I've also developed a good relationship with a local man. All the bad memories are washed away by Cancun's beautiful sea, and I'm focusing on being happy moving forward.